INFPs often do these unusual things. Let's find out if you do them too. Number 1. Daydream like it's their job. For INFPs, daydreaming isn't just a pastime, it's practically their full-time gig. While most people are busy with, reality, INFPs are off in their heads crafting entire universes that would make Tolkien jealous. You'll catch them staring off into space during a meeting, their eyes glazed over. But in their mind, they're probably on a magical quest to save an enchanted forest, or contemplating the ethical dilemmas of an intergalactic civilization. It's not that they're unfocused, it's more like the real world is just boring compared to the endless possibilities swirling around in their brain. Why sit through a mundane conversation about grocery shopping when they could be mentally scripting an epic adventure where they're the hero? Spoiler, they're always the hero. And the best part, INFPs don't just daydream about exciting stuff like slaying dragons, they also dream up elaborate scenarios about simple things, like running into a long-lost friend at a coffee shop and discussing the meaning of life over a latte. Their inner world is a constant theater of what-ifs. What if they lived in a cozy cabin in the woods and wrote poetry all day? What if they met their soulmate at the library and shared a love of obscure 19th century novels? What if their cat is secretly plotting world domination? Their imagination takes them places that are far more interesting than standing in line at the DMV. And honestly, who could blame them? Sometimes they'll snap back to reality, realize you've been talking for 5 minutes, and give you that classic INFP look, half apology, half, I was on a metaphysical journey. You might think they're zoning out, but really they're doing important work in their daydream office, building castles in the sky or solving emotional dilemmas that don't exist. And when they finally come back to Earth, they might hit you with some profound insight that leaves you wondering, how did they get that from a conversation about cereal? To the INFP, daydreaming isn't a distraction, it's their happy place, their creative playground, and occasionally their problem-solving hub. So the next time they drift off mid-sentence, just know they're probably off somewhere fantastical, saving the world one daydream at a time. Number 2. Get lost in books for days. For INFPs, getting lost in books isn't just a hobby, it's a lifestyle. When they crack open a book, they're not just reading words on a page, they're teleporting to an entire new world. Like they've found a secret door in the back of their wardrobe. Once they're inside, good luck getting them out. The real world fades into the background, and suddenly they're sword fighting alongside knights, solving mysteries with quirky detectives, or having deep existential conversations with brooding vampires, because of course the vampires are deep. An INFP can get so immersed in a story that hours, even days will slip by without them noticing. They'll forget to eat, sleep, or respond to that text you sent 3 days ago. Sorry, I was in Narnia, they'll say, and you'll think it's a metaphor, but knowing INFPs, it might as well be real. They don't just read books, they live them. If you find them on a Friday engrossed in a novel, there's a good chance you won't hear from them until Monday, assuming they've resurfaced from their fictional universe by then. INFPs will fall in love with characters, cry over plot twists, and become fiercely protective of the worlds they've mentally moved into. If you interrupt them mid-chapter, they'll look at you like you just knocked over a delicate house of cards. Don't be surprised if they emerge from a reading binge looking slightly disoriented, like they're trying to remember what dimension they're in. You'll ask how they're doing, and they'll blink and say something like, I'm fine, but the protagonist just discovered her magical heritage, and I'm still processing that. It's not just fiction either. An INFP will disappear into poetry, philosophy, or even random historical tomes about ancient civilizations. The subject doesn't really matter, as long as it ignites their imagination. They'll read about Victorian fashion trends for a week straight, then move on to astrophysics, because why not? And then, when they come back to reality, they'll try to casually weave all this newfound knowledge into conversation. One minute you're talking about dinner plans, and the next they're giving you a passionate rundown of the symbolism of birds in ancient Greek mythology, with no warning whatsoever. If you ever lose track of your INFP friend, there's a solid chance you'll find them curled up in the corner with a stack of books that's as tall as they are. And when they finally close the last page, don't expect them to come back to Earth immediately. They'll still be emotionally recovering from the roller coaster ride they took through the fictional multiverse. INFPs don't just get lost in books, they live in them. and you'd better believe they're already planning their next escape. Number 3. Avoid conflict like it's lava. For INFPs, conflict isn't just uncomfortable, it's like facing a tidal wave of molten lava. When arguments start bubbling up, they'll treat it like a volcanic eruption and immediately go into full-on avoidance mode. Picture this: you're in the middle of a heated discussion about whether pineapple belongs on pizza, and an INFP will suddenly develop a fascination with the corner of the room, as if they've discovered the world's most intriguing crack in the wall. Instead of engaging in the verbal lava flow, INFPs will employ their signature escape strategies. They might drift away into a corner of their mind where arguments don't exist, pretending to be intensely absorbed in rearranging the couch cushions or investigating the existential meaning of their coffee mug. If they can't physically remove themselves from the situation, they'll employ their top-secret tactic, the emotional buffering technique. They'll respond with vague, non-committal answers like, "I see where you're coming from," and then swiftly change the subject to something as innocuous as the weather, because everyone knows weather talk is the universal conflict-free zone. Their aversion to conflict is so strong that they might even deflect with a smile and a gentle, "let's not worry about it," as if they're trying to sprinkle fairy dust to make the disagreement disappear. To an INFP, navigating conflict feels like walking through a minefield of emotional grenades. They'll avoid stepping on any of those metaphorical mines at all costs, because even a small emotional explosion can turn their day into an emotional apocalypse. And if you think you can draw them back into the fray, think again. They're masters of the graceful exit. They might say, "I need to think about this more," and quietly retreat, leaving you with the impression they've just teleported to another dimension. Meanwhile, they're curled up in a cozy blanket fort in their mind, trying to recalibrate their emotional equilibrium. They're not trying to be evasive, they just believe there's more peace to be found in the quiet corners of their imagination than in the volcanic eruption of a heated argument. Their conflict avoidance strategy is so ingrained that even minor disagreements can feel like a full-scale emotional disaster. So if you ever catch an INFP trying to steer the conversation away from conflict or melting into the background at the hint of a disagreement, remember, they're not avoiding you. They're just trying to keep their emotional landscape as serene as a sunrise over a peaceful lake. For an INFP, peace is the ultimate treasure, and they'll go to great lengths to preserve it, even if it means dodging verbal lava flows with the skill of a seasoned escape artist. Number 4. Collect mementos with sentimental value. For INFPs, collecting mementos is like curating a personal museum of emotional treasures. Their collection might not be worth much in dollars, but in the currency of sentimentality, it's priceless. These items aren't just things, they're precious relics from the emotional journeys they've taken. They might have a jar full of seashells from a beach trip, a concert ticket from their favorite band's last tour, or even a crumpled napkin from a particularly meaningful coffee date. When you visit their space, you might think you've wandered into the whimsical attic of a time traveler. You'll find a mismatched collection of objects, a vintage key they discovered in an old bookshop, a faded photograph of a stranger they felt a connection to, or a tiny stone they picked up on a hike because it reminded them of a poignant moment in a novel. Each item is carefully placed, often in a shrine-like arrangement, with a kind of reverence that makes you wonder if you're actually on sacred ground. An INFP's memento collection usually comes with detailed backstories that make each item feel like a chapter in their personal epic. Ask them about a small wooden box on their shelf, and they'll launch into a heartfelt tale about how they found it in a dusty flea market corner on a spontaneous road trip, and how it represents their love for serendipitous adventures. They don't just keep these treasures tucked away in a drawer either. INFPs like to display their collections where they can see them often. A corkboard might be dotted with postcards, Polaroids, and ticket stubs, each printed with a note about the memory attached to it. Or their desk could look like an altar to nostalgia, complete with an assortment of trinkets that tell the story of their dreams, experiences, and maybe a few magical coincidences. Every time an INFP looks at these items, it's like pressing play on their personal highlight reel. They'll smile wistfully at a coffee shop receipt and remember the deep conversation they had with a friend that day. They might gaze at a concert wristband and recall the rush of joy they felt when their favorite song played live. It's not about the physical objects, it's about how these mementos act as emotional anchors, reminding them of moments that were significant and beautiful. So, if you're ever puzzled by why your INFP friend has a collection of seemingly random but deeply meaningful items, just know it's their way of holding on to the magic and meaning they find in life's little moments. Number 5. Overanalyze every interaction. For INFPs, conversations aren't just exchanges of words, they're intricate puzzles to be dissected and analyzed like they're plotting the next great literary masterpiece. After every social interaction, they'll dive into a deep introspective analysis that's akin to an emotional game of Clue, searching for hidden meanings and subtext. Imagine this: you just had a casual chat with an INFP about your weekend plans, and it seemed perfectly normal. Little did you know, they're now in the midst of a Sherlock Holmes-style investigation. They'll replay every sentence in their mind, scrutinize your word choices, and analyze your body language like a detective examining crime scene clues. Did they seem a bit distant when I mentioned hiking? What did that slight pause before their response mean? They might even consult friends for a second opinion, turning your casual chat into a complex web of social analysis. It's not that INFPs are paranoid, they're just deeply curious about the emotional subtext behind every interaction. If you said you had a great weekend, they might wonder if your enthusiasm was genuine or just a polite veneer. They'll consider the possibility that your smile could be masking something deeper, and examine every nuance of your tone to figure out what might be lurking beneath the surface. Sometimes their analysis leads them to wild conclusions. A simple "I'm fine" can become a topic of intense scrutiny. They might interpret it as a sign you're secretly upset, then spend hours crafting the perfect supportive message. Whether you need it or not, their mind wanders through a labyrinth of possibilities, often arriving at the most poetic, complex interpretations of even the most mundane interactions. An INFP's overanalysis doesn't stop with conversations. It extends to every social detail. They'll ponder why you wore that particular outfit, the deeper meaning behind your choice of restaurant, and whether the way you arranged your napkin was some subtle hint about your current mood. They think about it all, dreaming up elaborate theories about these smallest cues, all in the name of understanding the deeper layers of human connection. These videos will be really helpful for you.